My name is Alana Sarabia. I'm the CW insider for the CW35. Anybody watch the CW? Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm also on Fox San Antonio, News 4 San Antonio, and I am here to introduce a very important person. But before I do, I want to remind everybody to head over to your booth because we're giving away some really awesome prizes like an iPad mini and a trip to like Mexico and stuff. So don't forget to head over there whenever you're done here. Okay, so without further ado, let's get right into it. I know we saw some folks coming in and sitting down, but I'd like to get started so we can get as many questions in as possible. It's time to meet the person who is responsible for Spiderman, Iron Man, the Avengers. He's an ambassador for the art form of comic books for more than half a century, and he's made cameos in all those big films related to those characters. All right, guys, I need you to get really loud. Please help me give it up, you true believers, for Mr. Marvel himself, Stan Lee.
Look at that. Why do I see the back of my head? How can I see my face? Well, turn this way, I can't see it. Somebody has to pay for that. All right. Hello, everybody. What city am I in?
Well, you're in Alamo City, of course, in San Antonio. How are you liking San Antonio?
I love San Antonio. I love you people. You're wonderful. I was here before 1 year, and I said, I gotta come back. So you're stuck with me again. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But at least I have a pretty girl to talk to.
Well,
Tell me all about it, Elena.
Okay, I'll tell you all about it. Before we get talking, I need to see what you've been up to these days. I hear you're running a new company. It's called POW Entertainment. Talk to us about it.
Well, I have this company called POW Entertainment. Now, I'm sure you've all figured out by now that the word POW stands for Purveyors of Wonder. And that's our company. And we do movies and television stuff and things like that. Our latest thing, we're putting together a new superhero movie, and it's called The Annihilator. Yeah.
That's good.
You'll see it in about a year and a half. When it comes out, I hope you still remember I told you to go see it because I need the money.
All right, so let's talk about some other projects. Of course, you have The Annihilator. Can you do that one more time? The Annihilator. Will you say it one more time the way you did?
Oh, you want me to say the word again? You think I don't remember it twice?
I just want to hear it.
All right, here we go. The Annihilator.
Thank you.
I mean, I could have just said The Annihilator, but that wouldn't be dramatic. You have to be dramatic when you're talking to an audience, so I want you all to remember that.
Thank you for that. Now, I want to hear about some new projects that you have. I think they're overseas. Will you fill us in?
Well, we're doing some movies in China, but I'm not allowed to tell you about them yet, but you'll see them advertised. We have a new one in India called Chakra, the Invincible. It's about a teenage Indian boy. It's now a series of cartoons, but it's going to be a feature film, and you'll get that too. We're working on a Latino superhero, which I figure it's about time we had one of those. And we're doing a lot of stuff. The big thing is, the most important thing is to keep busy. Because if I'm not busy, I get in trouble, and nobody wants me to get in trouble.
And there we are. All right. I think it's time to open up the floor to some folks who might have some questions.
If you open up the floor, people will fall through. Oh, wait, there is a monitor. There's a monitor down there. I can see my face.
Right.
Oh, wow, that's great. I look terrible. Oh, well. All right, open up the floor.
Okay, let's see.
Right here. Where is right here?
Right over there.
Okay.
When you retire, who will you pass the company on to?
Okay, I have to make an explanation. I know I look to you like the most perfect physical specimen you could ever want to see. But unfortunately, my hearing isn't as good as it used to be. So when you ask the question through the mic, it sounds blurred to me. So this lovely young lady is going to repeat the question to me, and I hope I can understand what she says. When I retire, I don't intend to retire. And actually, it's a public company, so when I do retire, the stockholders will own it all, and they'd better do a good job, let me tell you. All right.
Over here.
Hello, sir. First off, a great honor to see you. Obviously, there's a really big presence of fans, and we're pretty great evidence of that. What's your opinion with the forums and fan fiction when it comes to your work?
Fantasy. My opinion on fantasy?
Fancy?
Fan fiction?
Fan fiction. You mean my opinion of the fiction that fans write?
Yes.
I'm sorry to say this. I hate to frustrate you. I hate to leave a question unanswered. But I don't know of any fan fiction because I don't read any. I don't even have time to read the professional fiction enough. But I gotta tell you, there are so many fans who are so talented, who are writing things, that I'm sure there must be a lot of great fan fiction going around. And if you are a writer, if you are a fan, and you think you have some great ideas, don't give them up. Put them down on paper. Sooner or later you'll meet somebody who's looking for that idea, and it'll explode.
Thank you.
Hello.
So far, so good.
Who do you? Who do you think that Peter Parker likes the most, Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy?
Oh. I have trouble keeping up to whether Gwen Stacy is alive or dead. But if she's still around, when I wrote The Two Girls, when I used to write about Peter with them, I was always wondering myself, who would I have him end up with? And some days I think maybe it should be Gwen. I mean, she's a nice gal, she's perfect. And then I thought, well, what about Mary Jane? She's real cool and hip. And then I thought maybe he could be a bigamist. But I never was sure in my own mind. I figured I'll think of it sooner or later. And then when I stopped writing the script, another guy named Jerry Conway, he killed Mary Jane, and I didn't know she was going to die. And a few months earlier, I had her father killed in a fight. And I thought to myself, the readers are going to think I have something against the Stacy family. I killed the father, and now the girl is killed. But I didn't want Gwen to be killed. But luckily, they brought her back somehow or other. I don't know. People in the comic business are like God. You can kill somebody, you can bring them back, you can do whatever you want.
All right, we have a question over here.
Spiderman is my favorite book.
You are a great human being.
Thank you.
That I can understand.
What was your inspiration when you killed off Uncle Ben?
First of all, I am thrilled I actually could hear and understand one of the people in the audience. It wasn't an inspiration. What it was, I wanted to make Peter Parker regret something that would make him want to be a hero and do good deeds. And I thought if in some way he could think he was partially responsible for Uncle Ben's death, that would make him feel he's got to spend the rest of his life making up for that and doing good for other people. And that was the reason. It was just to give Peter a little bit of a guilt feeling, to make him want to be a hero, to make up for the fact that if he had been a little more alert or a little bit more caring, maybe Uncle Ben would still be alive. And that's why I did it, because I'm a very, very cool writer who thinks of those things.
Thank you.
Thank you. How do you know where the voices come from? You point there and there. They all sound alike to me.
I'm going back and forth.
Okay.
That's offensive against us nerds. We
What
sound
side are we on
different.
now?
We're on that
We're
side.
over there. Okay.
Hello. I am honored to come down here. I've driven out 5 hours just to come see you from Houston.
Oh, now I've got to be good, or else you'll make me feel guilty.
Just being here is a pleasure. I came because I wanted to ask you this question. I didn't get the chance to ask you back in Comic Palooza. I've seen you in movies, and I've seen you in the Avengers series, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the Spiderman, in all your supporting roles, which you should have gotten an Oscar for, by the way.
I couldn't agree more.
I think particularly your Amazing Spider-Man one was your best yet. But I'm looking forward to seeing what you have stored for us in Age of Ultron. But that is not my question. Seeing how you've been in all these films, even Princess Brides 2 for some strange reason. Look it up, I'm not joking. I've been beginning to wonder why you are all the way in Guardians of the Galaxy on another planet far away in a different time, yet are in 1942 in another supporting role. Is it possible that you, Stan the Man Lee, are the Watcher?
Are the Watcher? Well, I will admit I've been keeping my eye on all of you. No, I'm afraid I don't have any superpower, and I'm not extraterrestrial. I'll admit I'm a wonderful human being, but I'm really just a little more wonderful than most, but other than that.
Will we expect to see you maybe as the Watcher in an upcoming, maybe Avengers 3?
Well,
during the Infinity Gauntlet?
they never give me a role that I can really sink my teeth into. But I will tell you, speaking of Avengers number 3, I have a cameo in that movie, which is the funniest cameo I have done yet. I cannot tell you what it is or they'd shoot me, but you must not miss it, because it gives me a chance to show my acting chops. I mean, I really perform in this one, and it's so funny. Well, you'll see when you see the movie.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
And thank you. By the way, speaking of all the cameos that I do, you may not realize that. You may think they just give me the cameo to kid around. No, that's how they make a lot of money, and I'll explain why. Take the X-Men movie, the last one. I didn't have a cameo in that. You may think somebody forgot. No, it was planned for this reason. Somebody goes to see the X-Men, sits through the whole movie, and then says, gosh, I didn't see Stan's cameo. Maybe I blinked my eye, or maybe I reached down for some popcorn and wasn't looking. So what do? They run to the box office and buy another ticket. Because nobody wants to miss my cameo, so X-Men made twice as much money as they expected to make by leaving out my cameo. So you see, it may seem to you it's just a cameo, but it's shrewd business on the part of the movie makers.
Okay.
Hey, Stan Lee, I think I can speak for everyone here that we all love you.
Well, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I love all of you, except the DC fans, of course. No, I even love those.
So we came from North Carolina to come see you, and my son Avery, sitting in the audience back here, is one of your biggest fans. Wave.
There he is. Hi there, but I have to tell you, I have to correct you, though. Don't be angry, but I happen to be my biggest fan.
So,
Only kidding.
you've done so much throughout your career. Are there things that you have on your list of things to do that aren't in production, aren't made yet or aren't tangible enough, what are you ready to see done? What are you ready to see that's not in production that you haven't had a chance to do in your career?
Gee, I've had a chance to do about everything, I guess, except I haven't had a starring role in a movie.
Let's make it happen.
And here's something else that you can do. You people are very influential, because in numbers there is strength. What I want you to do is contact the Film Academy, the Hollywood, whoever gives out the Oscars, whoever they are. And I want you to tell them it is time they had an Oscar for the best cameo of the year.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much.
I wouldn't have any competition. They'd have to give it to me. So that's my next thing.
Hi. This is a huge pleasure to me, an honor to me, because I'm a reporter for Stevens High School newspaper, and you're my first interviewee. And I have a question for you. What was your main inspiration for a lot of your comic book characters?
You had to summarize that for me. I couldn't make it out.
He says he's a new reporter and it is first interviewee. He wants to know what your inspiration is behind your comic book characters.
What my inspiration is behind any comic book character?
Your comic. How about your favorite? Spiderman.
You want to know my inspiration behind my favorite comic book character? Was that it?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Well, my favorite character was Spiderman. And thank you, web lovers. In fact, I can tell you a story about Spiderman that maybe you have not heard before. I will tell you about the origin, how I came up with the idea for Spider-Man and what happened after that. So settle back, get comfortable. It's long, it's boring, but it'll kill some time. I had an order from my publisher. I worked for a publisher at the time. And he said, Stan, the Fantastic Four is selling pretty well, and whatever other book we had. He said, come up with a new superhero for me. I want to do another superhero. So I went home and I started thinking, now when you come up with a superhero, really the first thing you have to figure is, why is he a superhero? What power does he have? So I was thinking, what power could I give a new superhero? We already had the Fantastic Four. And we had a girl who was invisible and had a force field. We had a guy who could burst into flame and fly, a guy whose body stretched, and a guy who was the strongest man of all. What was left? So I'm thinking and thinking, and I see a fly on the wall. And I said, gee, what if I had a hero who could stick to walls like an insect? And I thought, that's not bad. Well, what'll I call him? Fly Man? That didn't sound dramatic. Insect Man? Didn't sound heroic. I went down the list. Mosquito Man. And then I said, Spider-Man. Oh boy, that sounded scary. It sounded dramatic. Then I figured, I'll make him a teenager, because there hadn't been any teenage superheroes. That would make it really different. And then, just for fun, I figured I'll give him a lot of personal problems. He'll worry about money, he's not that popular with girls, all kind of things. That'll make him different. Well, I was so excited about that idea, I ran into my publisher, and I told him. And he said to me, that is the worst idea I have ever heard. He said, Stan, you can't call a character Spider-Man because people hate spiders. You can't make him a teenager. A teenager can only be a sidekick. And you can't give him personal problems if he's a superhero. Don't you know what a superhero is? So naturally, I was not too encouraged. But I had the idea in my mind, I didn't want to let it go, and we were killing a magazine. We had a book called Amazing Fantasy, and we were going to kill it. The last issue was about to be published. Now, when you put out the last issue of a magazine, nobody cares what's in it. It's the last issue. The book is dying. So just for fun, I put Spider-Man in that issue, and featured him on the cover. A month later, all the sales figures came into the office, and my publisher rushed over to me and he said, Stan, do you remember that character Spiderman of yours that we both loved so much? I swear. He said, let's make a series of them. And that's how Spidey was born. Now you know the whole unvarnished truth.
So a lot of people are always really, really excited to meet you, and you always meet all the celebrities and stuff. But who have you been excited to meet? Whether it be the president or an actor?
Who have I
Who have you been excited to meet?
Who have I wanted to meet? Excited to meet? I met a few presidents, actually. I'll tell you a funny story. My whole life consists of funny stories. For some reason that nobody will ever understand, Professor Bush wanted to give me something called the Medal of the Arts. Every year the president gives out a Medal of the Arts to a handful of people. And I was one of them. It was about 5, 6 years ago, I don't know. So I flew down to Washington. Now, what was her name? What was the name of the girl who always co-starred with Errol Flynn in all those movies? Olivia de Havilland. I don't know if you remember Olivia de Havilland, but she also was getting a medal. And she got up to the stage with the president before I did. He put the thing around her neck and he gave her a little kiss on the cheek. And then it was my turn. So I walked up, he put the thing around my neck, and I don't know what got into me, but I said to him, "You're not gonna kiss me too, are you?" And he burst out laughing, and I was laughing, and someone took that photo, and I have it in my office, a photo of the president and me laughing like hell, and it looks like we're bosom buddies, and we were just the funniest thing. Then I met President Reagan. We were sitting at a dinner, and I was sitting across from him. He was right here, and I was here, and we're facing each other. Now, he was no longer president. He had given up the presidency about a year ago. So what do you say when you're facing an ex-president? I had to think of something to say to him. So I said, "Mr. Reagan, you must feel so relieved that you don't have all the worries of the world on your shoulders anymore. You can relax and be a civilian." And I will never forget, he looked at me with his eyes shining, and he was so intense, and he said, "No, Stan, I loved being president." I mean, I never heard anything like that. That really, so I have a photograph of us talking. And it's a very funny photo, because in the photo, I'm walking over to him, and he's sitting down, and he's looking up at me like that, and I'm looking down at him. So I like to put little funny word balloons over photos. So over his head I put a balloon, "Stan, do me a favor." And I'm saying, "Sure, what?" And he says, "Pose for a picture with me." And I have that hanging on my wall too. But so much about presidents, I don't want to sound like I'm name dropping, which I am.
All right, guys, we have another question. We have a little one over here.
How cool was it to star on The Big Bang Theory?
The Big Bang Theory, what was the question? Oh, I loved being on that. I wished I had a bigger role. The cast of The Big Bang Theories are great. And the best thing about it, after the show ended, we all gathered together. I'm always getting photographs for a photo, and the blonde girl kissed me on the cheek during the photo, so that made it all worthwhile. But after you finish, and I'm glad you mentioned that, after you finish writing to the movie awards committee, whatever it is, I want you to write to The Big Bang Theory and say it's about time Stan was on there again, okay? So if I don't get a call from them in a few weeks, I'll know you failed me, so watch yourself.
Over here.
I just wanted to say, Stan, I'm a really big fan, and Spider-Man is my favorite superhero. And I was gonna ask, what was your favorite Spider-Man comic book?
All of them. No, I'm not really good at favorites because I love everything I write. I like all the people I know. I don't even remember all the Spider-Man comics. I have a lousy memory. This is secret, don't tell anybody. But I can't remember all the Spider-Man books I wrote, and I can't remember the ones that other people wrote after me, because obviously when I stopped writing them, I stopped reading them. And I guess maybe if I had to name a favorite, it would be the first one, because that was the one where I put it all together, or tried to. So since I'm expected to give an answer when I'm up here, I'll say the first one, which is just off the top of my head. I have no idea how that's any better or different than any of it.
What's one of your favorite female superheroes you've ever created?
Oh, my favorite female super. Well, I was always fond of the She-Hulk. I think they're going to be bringing her back a little bit more. I like the Black Widow. I always liked Sue Storm, the Invisible Girl, because she was easy to draw if she was invisible. But again, favorites, I'm not good with favorites because I'm very impartial. I love everything I've ever done. Sometimes I read those old stories and I say, wow, did I write that? I'm better than I thought.
All right, over here.
Hey Stan, one of my favorite characters is Gambit. And
Is who?
Gambit.
Gambit.
Yeah, and I hear he's gonna be coming out in the movie soon, and Channing Tatum would be playing him. Do you know how accurate he gets?
I can't give away any secrets, but yeah, sooner or later you'll be seeing him. Yeah. That's all I can tell you. My lips are sealed.
Does he look pretty accurate to the part?
Don't know. Sorry, I tried out, but they laughed at me. I auditioned for all the roles. They laugh at me every time.
Well, first off, I want to thank you not just for your innumerable contributions to the nerd universe, we all love you for that, but also for just exemplifying what it means to be a great human being.
Well, thank you.
And I've got a serious question and a fan question. Should I go with the fan question? Yeah? All right. I heard a story that you were once in a little magazine called Playgirl a few decades back. I was just wondering how that happened, how you got approached for that.
I was in a magazine called Playboy. Playgirl? I don't know anything about that. Was I gotta get a copy. No, I really don't know about Playgirl. I mean, I know about the book, but I didn't know I was in it. What was I doing in Playgirl? Now I'm worried.
I think they were writing a story about you. I don't think you were
Really?
posing.
No, Playboy has done a few things about me. It's funny, years ago, I know Hugh Hefner, and he said to me once, we ought to do a Playboy interview with you. And I said, fine. And this was years ago. And then I got a phone call rather, from his editor who said, Stan, we gave up the idea of doing the interview with you because you're not that well known. Your character, Spider-Man, is well known. He's better known than you are. So we're going to do an article about Spider-Man. Well, what the hell. But last year they did an article about me in Playboy. It took all this time for them to come to their senses.
Over here.
I grew up reading Golden Age comic books and Silver Age comic books, and the artwork and the tones were different compared to the artwork in nowadays comic books. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that, on the differences between the two. What do you think?
Well, the artwork looks different now because they use computers for the most part to do the lettering and to do the coloring. And that gives, the computerized coloring gives the strips a totally different look. Also, there are different editors now who tell the artist to draw in different ways. And every time you have new editors, you have a new look to the artwork. I loved the old artwork, which is a little more cartoony. The artwork today I love also because it's like paintings, it's like real illustration. So I love them both. I mean, but I will admit today's comic books do have a different look than the ones when I was doing them. And whether you prefer one or the other, that's just a matter of individual taste. Hey, see, I can be serious.
I have to get serious also. I wanted to remind everybody that we have about 5 more minutes left so we can see how many questions we can get.
I'm just getting started.
I'm sorry, Stan. Apple has requested that we try and stay on schedule, but we're going to try and fit as many in, so let's head over here.
Hi, Stan. I learned how to read from your comic books, and one hero that I really gravitated towards was Daredevil. And like since the beginning, you had him fighting people like, in the second issue, you had him fighting Electro, and then later the Submariner. And one thing I really love about Daredevil is that he never gives up and stuff. And I was just wondering, what do you remember the most in those early days of creating Daredevil?
All I could make out was the word Electro, and he's wondering something. So you clue me in.
You want to know, repeat the question, just the question.
You're not going to tell me?
Go ahead.
What was the biggest thing you remember when you created Daredevil?
Oh, Daredevil. As with Spiderman, I was looking for a superhero that was really different. And I don't know, for some reason it occurred to me if I could get a hero who was blind, but yet could do things that other people couldn't do, that could be very interesting, because I realized that if your other senses are magnified, your sense of hearing, your sense of smell, and so forth, you could probably function even if you couldn't see. So I liked that idea, and I did Daredevil, and I love that character. I don't know why he's not a bigger character in the Marvel Universe, but I think he will be, because they'll be doing a movie of him, and when they do, he'll become incredibly popular, because they'll get an incredibly good actor, and he'll suddenly become one of the stars again. But that was the idea. I wanted to show that somebody with an infirmity could still function well in the world. And the funny thing is, I was a little bit afraid that I'd get letters from charities that had to do with blindness, and they'd say, "Why are you writing this silly thing? You know no blind person can do that. Are you making fun of them?" But rather than that, I got so much mail from different Lighthouse for the Blind type of charities saying, "We love the fact that you have a blind superhero, and all of our people here enjoy it so much, and they feel now they're part of all of this." And so it turned out pretty good, and I'm very happy about it. That's it. Thank you. Sure.
Okay. All right, I have one more question. Go ahead.
Out of all your heroes that you've created, which was the most fun to make?
What was it?
Out of all the characters you created, which was the most fun to
Well, that's hard to answer because they were really all fun. The most fun after creating a character is sitting down with the artist and talking about it and saying, "Come on, do some sketches. What would it look like?" And the artist draws a few things and I say, "No, I don't like that, I like that." I'll tell you one thing, the one costume that I always hated, it wasn't a costume, I never liked the way Iron Man looked. We never, no matter what artist drew him, in almost every issue we changed the armor a little bit. I was never happy with it. I never could get and there's no reason why they could do it, I never could get the artist to do it the way he looked in the movie. That armor in the movie is so great, but nobody could draw that. I love Iron Man.
You know what, let's squeeze in just one more, so we still have some time. Over here.
I just read recently that you were actually 17 when you started writing and essentially running Marvel. And me being 17 right now, I was wondering, because I want to do just, everything too. I want to be making movies and writing. And I wanted to know if there was ever a time where you just kind of like had a slump, or you just, like what kind of drove you to keep going forward?
No, I'm not kidding you. I started when I was 17. Yeah. If I had a flunk? I think the thing that kept me going was greed. No, I grew up during the Depression. My father didn't have a job, couldn't get one. There were no jobs in those days. And I had to work. I was an office boy, I was a theater usher, I wrote advertising copy for a hospital, I wrote obituaries for the Associated Press, dull things. And then I got the job in the comics, and it was important to me that I keep that job because I needed the money to help pay the rent. And I stayed with it all the time. I never dreamt that I'd be in the comic book business. I used to think maybe I'll be an actor, maybe I'll be president of the United States, maybe I'll be a soldier, something. I never thought I'll be a comic book writer. It just happened. And I was trapped. I still haven't gotten out of it. I'm still trying to wiggle my way out.
All right, guys, that's gonna wrap up our panel today. But before we do, Stan, I want to know if you have any last remarks for all of your fans.
Any last remarks on my part? No, I don't have to tell you this because you're sitting here, so you know it. You are one of the greatest audiences I've ever spoken to. I want to thank you for the kind reception. I want to thank you for your interest. And I wish I could hear better, but I heard some of it anyway. And I love you all. What can I? Oh, there's one more thing I can say. Excelsior!